It's the Revved Up 906 podcast, a Detroit Pistons podcast, to be exact. And I'm Hudson.
And I'm Ryan.
And before we get into episode number 6 of season 3, I got to talk to you, the people, about a few quick things. First off, if you are new to the channel, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you see the little arrow button below this video, that is the share button. You can share us to your Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram. So make sure to do that if you like today's episode. Also, we are partnered up with Grind Clothing Co. They are our official merch sponsor. So if you want to check out our merch, click the link in the description below of this video, or you can go to our YouTube profile, and in our bio, you can see that link also. Just a bunch of different design options. Want to make sure if you guys want some merch, well, we have it and you guys can buy it and pretty easily. So, that's pretty much it for today. Oh, also, if you have any comments, comment below. We're going to be talking about Cade Cunningham and all kinds of different statistics he's got going on this season. So if you have any thoughts, comments, questions, opinions on Cade Cunningham and the kind of season he's having so far, make sure to comment below. We'd love to know what you guys have to say. So episode number 6 of season 3, we are going to be honing in on if Cade Cunningham is going to be an all-star this year and if he is playing at an all-star level. Because if you're paying attention to the Pistons kind of world and everybody who's talking about things like commentators, sports writers, everybody is kind of shifting to this narrative that, hey, we may just see a Cade Cunningham all-star appearance, and don't be shocked if you see it. And so first off, I want to talk about if you want to vote for Cade Cunningham to be on the all-star team, you can go to vote.nba.com, click on the Eastern Conference players, and just you can pick up to 5 Pistons players or 5 Eastern Conference players, and then 5 Western Conference players. Those are for the starters, and then the coaches, every head coach in the NBA will kind of bid for what players they want to have an appearance in the All-Star game and who they think deserve an All-Star game. So what's kind of interesting, Ryan, is I think every Pistons fan has kind of known that Cade may just have the perfect play style to succeed in today's NBA, but it was whether he was going to take that next step. That's what we were kind of talking about at the end of last season is, okay, is he the Batman and is somebody going to be his Robin, or is he Robin and someone else is going to be a Batman for the Detroit Pistons? But what we've kind of seen is Cade stepping into this Batman role, this captain role for the Detroit Pistons and doing it in a big way. Right now, he's averaging 23.5 points. So you can average, upgrade that to 24, 9.7 assists, 40% from the 3-point line and 45% shooting percentage. And right now he's staying healthy. Everything's kind of going well for Cade Cunningham. He has I think he has like 6 or 7 triple doubles under his belt so far this season. Saw a lot of success in the Emirates Cup. Ryan, where are your thoughts at as far as Cade's success, and why do you think it's in such a big way this season and that timing of him playing so well?
Obviously, he's been good every single year. Obviously, you take out the year that he went out with the injury, played 10 games, that's about it. But in those 10 games, he was playing at all-star caliber basketball. And then last year, same thing. But I think there's a difference between last year and this year, just from the standpoint of look at the roster, look at the guys around him, look at the coaches. Like it's different. It's more tailored for Cade Cunningham. Last year it was more thrown together, like who's gonna fit in, who's not gonna fit in. We'll make a decision later on. Just see how the team plays out. This year, in the offseason specifically, they focused on, okay, what guys can we bring in to really get the most out of Cade Cunningham? What coaches can we bring in to really get the most out of Cade Cunningham? The emphasis was on Cade this offseason, and it's been proven evident. 23 games, as you said, 24 points, pretty much 10 assists, let's be honest. And then like 8 rebounds. Also, like he's playing at all-star caliber basketball, has
Yeah.
6 triple doubles this season. In his career, he's had 8, and 6 of them are from this season.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's just crazy.
Uh-huh.
And so like you look at the last 2 years prior to this year, he didn't have any triple doubles. Last year, he did not have one triple double.
Hmm.
Um, but he had what 14 double doubles. This year, he's off to 13 double doubles and 6 triple doubles.
Wow.
And with the stats he has, like he is by far an all-star right now. Where the Pistons sit in the standings, they are 10th. They'd be a play-in team as of now.
Right.
And because of that situation, obviously standings really dictate who's an all-star every year. It's
Yeah.
usually the better teams get the players in the all-star game, the worst teams don't. Right now, if we were to continue the trend where we are, you can't not make a case for Cade being an all-star because he is. He's playing, honestly, he's playing MVP caliber basketball right now. But the unfortunate thing with that is the fact that the Pistons, even though they are much more improved this year than last, and even like the last 5, 6, 7 years, it's still not good enough to get Cade in the MVP conversation. But with needless to say, he's been fantastic. So I really think it's just the emphasis on improving the roster around Cade and just what can we do to get Cade better looks? What can we do to take pressure off of him to allow him to facilitate more often and not have to take the shot at all times? What can we do to allow him to get in the paint more, be more defensive sound rather than just focusing on offense? Because the last couple of years, like last year specifically, our roster was terrible. We had a couple
Yeah.
good pieces, and even us in the offseason going into last year, we were saying, okay, this team's not going to be bad, but they're not going to be great. And we were really hoping on maybe they would make it to the play-in, but maybe they don't. But at least around that mark, we were totally wrong. But if you look at this year, it's much different in the fact that you added Malik Beasley, you added Tobias Harris, you added Tim Hardaway Jr., and these guys that actually can help this team out in different roles in certain situations that you look at last year, Bojan Bogdanovic is not just catching and shooting every single time like Malik Beasley and honestly, kind of yes and no. But Malik Beasley can actually facilitate and has more of a role outside of his 3-point shot. Whereas Bojan Bogdanovic didn't have much out of his 3-point shot. Yes, he was shifty at times. Yes, he could kind of get a pass in or two, and he was very smart with the ball in his hands. But at the same time, he was probably one of the slowest on the team by far. He's older. He can't do much outside of just shooting the ball. Whereas Malik Beasley adds a whole nother level to the game where he's adding passing. He's adding a high basketball IQ. Not that Bojan didn't have one, but he's adding a decently high basketball IQ. Then you add in the defense. Malik Beasley is a great defender. That's something that Bojan Bogdanovic was not. And then you look at Tim Hardaway Jr. and Tobias Harris. It's the same thing. And then Paul Reed. You throw in Wendell Moore. Like all these guys that we added in are what's taking and getting the most out of Cade Cunningham, along with the coaching staff. Jarrett Jack obviously staying with us. That's been a big help too, because when you have a certain relationship building and blossoming, I think we're in the blossoming phase of that relationship between Jarrett Jack and Cade. Jarrett Jack was a journeyman, but he was a great sound point guard. No matter what team you looked at, he was always one of the go-to options on those teams. Yes, he wasn't like a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he worked his tail off, and every team in the league at one point or another wanted him on the roster. And so you look at the roster shape up, the coaching staff. I really think those are the big two things and big reasons why Cade all of a sudden has stepped up this year.
Well, and I know us specifically have taken some time to look at Cade and Jarrett Jack's relationship. When we were in Detroit last March, we were talking about pregame, looking at them working together, and we kept talking about it to ourselves of like, wow, they just really look like they're engaged. And Jarrett Jack's just like helping Cade through every step of these drills and really just pounding him on defense, really trying to get Cade prepared for each and every game. I shout out Jarrett Jack for how much he's doing with Cade Cunningham, and he's turning him into an all-star caliber player. And then I kind of want to talk about the type of competition Cade has been going through in the month of December, because you watch games, you don't necessarily see the gauntlet of teams the Pistons are going through, except when you look at the overview. In the month of December, the Pistons have had one of the toughest schedules. It's been insane. They've played the Boston Celtics twice. They most recently, on the 16th of December, played the Miami Heat. They played the 7th of December, the New York Knicks, and then Milwaukee, December 3rd. And in the month of December, Cade Cunningham has had two triple doubles and two other games where he was just a couple assists or a couple of rebounds away from triple doubles. For example, against the New York Knicks, he put together a thick triple double, 29 points, 15 assists, 10 rebounds. And then against the Miami Heat, most recently, 20 points, 18 assists, 11 rebounds. These aren't no like 20, 10, and 10. Cade is a stat sheet stuffer this year, and you can give a lot of credit to coaches like Jarrett Jack. I like that you kind of shouted out the coaches, because that can kind of waver in people's thoughts. People don't always think about the coaches that are working one-on-one with these players and really helping their careers and helping turn them around. So Cade Cunningham isn't just putting up numbers against the Charlotte Hornets or the New Orleans Pelicans, who absolutely suck. They're playing against tough teams, tough defenders, and Cade Cunningham is playing absolutely great. And let's keep in mind, in his two triple-double games against the Miami Heat and the New York Knicks, they won each of those games. So when Cade Cunningham is playing at his best, it translates directly to wins in a big way for the Detroit Pistons. And like you said, you can accredit that to the cast of players around him that are really active and passing the ball. And then Cade just making the right passes, getting the extra rebound, and knocking down those jump shots. Particularly around the 3-point line, that we've seen him struggle in his first 3 years. He's a mid-range guy. That's just what he has. Knocked down mid-range, great, laying it in at the bucket, whether it's contested or open. And the 3-pointers were kind of where we were like, okay, if he wants to compete at the NBA level, he's got to make these threes. Well, they're dropping in a big way this season. And he's looking at nearly 40% from the 3-point line, which is great. Next thing I kind of want to talk about is some impressive stat lines. Talked about that. Ryan, as far as Cade's play style, it's kind of been specific since his career. Look for the shot, but then make the right pass, or look for the shot and get those offensive rebounds. What impresses you most about these triple doubles? Is it getting 15 assists, getting the 29 points, or is it the big time rebounds? What do you think accredits to like the little things Cade's doing?
I think for me, it's the assist numbers, because you look back at like his rookie season as an example, he turned the ball over a ton. The last couple of seasons, he's turned the ball over a ton. This year, not as much, but it's still in that ballpark as, ooh, that's a decent chunk of turnovers. But
Right.
outside of that, like, he's making sound decisions. He's actually, this year, more than last year or even the last couple of years, he's making the offense less around him with the ball than it is with his teammates. Because last year, it was kind of like he had to be the guy to take that shot, because Jaden Ivey wasn't to the level he's at right now. Jalen Duren wasn't at the level to which he is right now. And outside of those two guys, you have Bojan Bogdanovic, who before he got traded, he was playing decent basketball. But the reason he got traded, because all of a sudden, boom, cold streak, and that was it. Obviously, I can't even think of his name because I don't care. Troy Weaver. Troy Weaver didn't know what he was doing necessarily, because he just didn't know what he was doing. But the turnovers from last year to this year are completely different. The turnovers this year are Cade is looking to get the ball to a certain spot, and the receiving end is just not making it work. It's not necessarily that it's Cade's fault that he's not that he's turning the ball over. It's
Right.
on the receiving end, it's just not there. But you look at this, it's like, okay, Most recent game against the Heat, 18 assists. That is incredible for Cade
Oh
Cunningham.
man, come
Because
on.
and you think about it, he only had 4 turnovers in that game. That is fantastic. Because usually he'd hover around ballpark 8 to 9 turnovers a
Yeah,
game.
yeah,
And instead, he's at 4 for that game. You look back against Boston recently, 3 turnovers. Against the Knicks, 3 turnovers. Against the Celtics again, six
yeah.
turnovers.
It's impressive.
Against Milwaukee, 4 turnovers. He's barely turning the ball over. And yes, that is a decent amount still, but that's not nowhere near the amount he was turning the ball over last year or even the last couple of years. And then
Yeah,
like the tear he's been on with the triple doubles. I just want to make note. The first game against Boston was almost a triple double. And then the second game against Boston was almost a triple double. So if those were 2 triple double games, he'd have those 4 in a row. So that would have been against Boston the first time, 27 points, 14 assists, 9 rebounds. He was 1 rebound shy of a triple double. Then the Knicks, the 29 points, 15 assists, and 10 rebounds. And then against the Celtics again, 18 points, 8 assists, 8 rebounds. 2 rebounds, 2 assists away from a triple double. And then obviously against the Heat, 20 points, 18 assists, 11 rebounds. So you look at that span, that could have been 4 triple doubles in a row, which is just absurd. So not only is he limiting the turnovers, he's facilitating more often, he's looking for the rebounds, and he's taking less pressure off of himself, along
yeah,
with looking for the teammate rather than his own shot. And usually it's the unselfish players that really turn a team around. Because Cade last year had to be more selfish because of the team around him. This year, he doesn't have to be as selfish, and he can go back to the same kind of player he was at Oklahoma State with the Cowboys. Because you look back at when he was in college, like he was more playing like he is right now than what he had been the previous couple of years. And because you look back at college, you're like, okay, triple double, triple double, triple double. And you're like, okay, this guy is legit. He's going to be a first pick overall. And then the last couple of years, we were always questioning, okay, is he a Batman or is he a Robin? But then this year, because of the team that's been assembled around him, he's able to come back to his own. And it's been fantastic. So to me, it's been the assists. That's been the most impressive thing on this. Back at November, there were, well, that's what, 9 games of 10 plus assists in November.
yeah.
And you throw that in with the 3 in December so far. So that's 13 games. You go back to even October, he had 1 there. So like that's 14 10 plus assist games in what, 23 games, 25, 26. Like that is fantastic. So to me, the biggest thing with Cade Cunningham is the assists, just because it's been impressive the streak he's been on. Because not only is he getting the 10 plus points, he's getting the 10 plus assists, which it's much harder to get an assist than it is to score the ball for him, just given the amount of turnovers he's had the most recently and in the last couple of years.
I want to take some time to talk about what the Pistons world and writers are kind of talking about right now as far as their predictions with Cade having an all-star appearance and stuff like that. First article comes from NBA.com. Eddie Rivera, who is a Pistons analyst or writer, kind of was involved with this article. One of the paragraphs says there probably will be 5 guards taken from the Eastern Conference rosters, and there are close to 3 times that many worthy candidates. But there is no doubt that Cunningham has made himself a worthy candidate this season, and lifting the Pistons to every night competitiveness has caught the attention of the basketball world. So that's one thing I want to take note of, has caught the attention of the basketball world. I remember heading into last season, we did an episode where we talked about NBA player rankings and how Cade got absolutely snubbed. I think he was outside of 40 or 50, and it was just absolutely atrocious. And how we were just talking about how it's in a small market like Detroit, it's hard to catch everyone's attention and say, hey, hello, I'm here in Detroit and I'm balling out. And Cade Cunningham is finally doing that. And it seems like the NBA is finally starting to take that on notice. And it's great to see NBA writers starting to talk about him more and start to take him seriously, because that's the next step for this Detroit Pistons team and Cade Cunningham's career, really making a big impact in the NBA as a whole. Sports writer Hunter Patterson _ find him on X, did an interview during practice with Cade Cunningham, and he asked this quote, asked Cade Cunningham how different this season feels compared to last year during the Pistons' historic losing streak. And this right here, I want to point out how he is taking on a captain role and is very well seeing this winning capability this Pistons team has. In past seasons, the Pistons didn't even know where to begin. Now, Cade Cunningham, as a leader of the Pistons, feels a different way than he has in other seasons before. Quote, Cade Cunningham says, quote, it feels a lot different. It's an energy in the gym right now. It's a lot that we're working toward, but we all have those goals in our reach. So these aren't just lofty goals a coach like Monty Williams that is disengaged is giving to the team. No, these quotes are visible and they're so close to reach. And this Detroit Pistons team seems to have a different energy behind them. And there's Cade Cunningham taking that next step with the team as a whole. Because Ryan, if Cade Cunningham came into this season, Malik Beasley starts contributing, Tobias Harris starts making it happen, we could have easily seen this Detroit Pistons team just stay stagnant where they were if Cade Cunningham didn't step up and take that next level. But there he steps up to the occasion in a big way. And it's impressive to me as a young man with a daughter and probably a significant other. There's so many other distractions. And then there's Cade Cunningham really just making it happen on the court in a big way. And I'm just really happy to see this a Pistons player finally kind of making an impact farther than the Detroit Pistons team and just putting up 20 points a game. Like, we were so happy with Jeremy Grant doing. I remember when Jeremy Grant was playing so well, we were like, oh, thank you for scoring 20 points per game. This is miraculous. And our expectations were just so low then. Now we have this Cade Cunningham where we can hang our hat on a future all-star. And that's just great to me. Ryan, any last thoughts or next thoughts as far as talking about Cade Cunningham and his all-star possible season?
So when you think of back to last year, obviously we all know it was a train wreck. And I think Cade was not happy, but I think Cade took last year as something personal because of how he's played this year so far. Because to me, the biggest thing of it all is comes in, gets drafted by the Pistons, and asks to use number 2, which had been retired for Chuck Daly. And when you're asking permission to use that number, which that's a number that there's not a lot of people in this world that I, as a Pistons fan, would sit there and go like, yep, he can wear number 2. No, because it's retired for a reason. And Chuck Daly specifically, like that should not be worn by anybody else. But Cade, I am perfectly fine with right now, just because of how he's handled himself as a Piston and what he is holding himself accountable for. Because you look back at last year, obviously as bad as it was, and obviously in the past asked to wear number 2. You look at those two things, Cade probably is sitting there going like, crap, like we just crapped the bed on that season and it's all my fault, which it really wasn't all his fault. It was a handful of people. Troy Weaver, Monty Williams, Bojan Bogdanovic. There's a list. There is a big, long list of people to blame for last year. And honestly, as well as this year has gone so far, we still have to point the finger a little bit to Tom Gores, because he's the one that went out, okay, we got to go get Monty Williams because this is the guy for our team. We got to go out and get Troy Weaver because he is by far the next best GM. Like, those were clearly 2 mistakes. And then he's like, okay, I screwed up. We got to fix this. And goes out, gets Trajan Langdon. Langdon brings in JB Bickerstaff. And here we are. But I think Cade took last year as something personal to where he needs to step up his game even more. And then also, like, nobody likes to lose at all in anything. I don't like to lose in anything. I just lost the, granted, I'm a coach, but I just lost the eighth grade boys championship game. And I'm sitting here going, like, I don't like that. But, but the point is, like, I think Cade took that on his shoulders a little bit, that pressure from last year, going, like, we can't have this happen again. Because we just had in a historic season, which historic in a bad way, which is not good. And then Jaden Ivey comes in full gang ho, gangbusters. Same with Jalen Duran. Like these guys, all of a sudden, we're like, okay, we can't let that happen again. And Cade's sitting there going like, okay, I've been playing good, but I know I can play so much better. And because of what happened last year, I think that's really light a fire under all of them, and specifically Cade Cunningham, to the point where he's playing all-star caliber basketball. And yes, we can credit all the roster shape up and the coaches all we want, but Cade, something has changed with him to where he's finally playing to the level that he should be playing at consistently, because everybody talked about him getting drafted. Everybody talked about what the stats would look like. And everybody was talking about what the current stats are right now for Cade Cunningham would have looked like in his rookie season. Like what he's doing right now should have happened a couple of years ago, but it never happened. And now it's happening. And now the Pistons are in a groove. Obviously, sitting at 11 and 16, below 500, not great, but honestly, far better than a lot of teams. Because the East, I mean, you look at below the Pistons, Brooklyn's 10 and 16, Philly's 8 and 16, Charlotte 7 and 19, Toronto 7 and 20, Washington 3 and 21. Like there's really no competition below the Pistons. So as long as the Pistons keep doing what they're doing and finish, like let's say they do finish at 10, they're in the play-in. They're in the playoffs. They have a shot at officially making the jump into the playoffs. And honestly, the way they've played and Cade has played, they can easily beat the Bulls. They can easily beat the Pacers. And honestly, I think they could beat the Hawks. I think 9, 8, and 7 they could beat. They've already beaten Miami twice. Miami's sitting at 6. They've already beaten Milwaukee once. So like there's a decent couple of teams here. Also, Orlando lost Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner for a decent chunk of time. So, and then we've beaten the Knicks at least once and the Celtics. So like you look at who's in front of us, I don't think there's a team in that bunch that we couldn't beat. Now, does that mean Cade has to be at an all-star caliber level at all times? Yes, it does, because Malik Beasley can't do it all. Tobias Harris can't do it all. Tim Hardaway Jr. can't do it all. Same with the rest of the gang. But Cade Cunningham, if he were to continue what he's doing right now, we could easily make the playoffs, because Brooklyn, Philly, Charlotte, Toronto, and Washington aren't doing jack right now. And Philly, it's kind of crazy that they're not doing anything right now when they just went out and got Paul George. So, but nothing at all. So if we were to continually do what we're doing right now, even with us below 500, we're in the playoffs. And that's all due in part because of Cade Cunningham and all-star level caliber, honestly, MVP caliber basketball he's been playing this season.
So I want to take some time to talk about other players that could maybe beat out Cade Cunningham's bid for the All-Star team. And to be honest, there is a lot of competition in the Eastern Conference with point guards. I just want to talk about their stats and what we know compared to Cade Cunningham. Right now, Trae Young with the Hawks is at 22 points per game, 12 assists. Jalen Brunson, New York Knicks point guard, is at 25 points per game, basically 8 assists per game. Drew Holiday, starting point guard, not the best stats, but starting, 12.6 points per game and 4 assists, 4 rebounds. Tyrese Halliburton, 18 points per game, basically 9 assists and basically 4 rebounds. And Damian Lillard, I mean, he may be aging a little bit, but he still got it. 26 points per game, 8 assists and 5 rebounds, man. Damian Lillard, no one respects the greatness. Love Damian Lillard. So, I mean, there is no shortage of competition for Cade Cunningham as we slowly approach the All-Star break. But people, I have to remind you, go to vote.nba.com to vote for Cade Cunningham. Jaden Ivey is on there. Jalen Duran, Malik Beasley and Tobias Harris are all listed for possible all-star votes. Some of those guys, not as likely, but all go vote for Cade. Vote.nba.com. It's going to be so crucial. And if you want a little fun during all-star break, seeing Cade Cunningham hoop against the best. Ryan, as we wind down on episode 6 of season 3, any last takes, opinions, comments before we wrap up today's episode?
As great of the guys that you just listed off as potential all-star bids, I think the way Cade is playing right now, he is by far head and shoulders above all of them.
I think so too.
I love Drew Holiday, though. I love him. The reason why he's in that conversation is just because of what kind of team player he is. Because he is such a phenomenal. Honestly, if you were to just base someone off Hall of Fame worthy wise off of a certain aspect of their game, for team basketball, Drew Holiday would be in that conversation because he is by far one of the most unselfish players ever. And yes, he's not like flashy and all that jazz, but he gets the job done and he works his tail off. Trae Young, honestly, even though we share the same last name, we're not personally, I don't really like him that much. He is good. I'm not saying he's bad, but it's Trae Young. It's not like, whoa, like it's not, when you think of the Atlanta Hawks, you're thinking of Dominique. You're not thinking of Trae Young. Now the younger generations are thinking of Trae Young, but I'm thinking of Dominique all day, every day. Throw in Spud Webb. I would think of Spud Webb even before Trae Young. Throw in maybe Josh Smith. There's a
you
couple
still love Josh
different
Smith.
Ones. Josh Smith was great before he came to Detroit.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate what happened. But yeah, so the list of guys in front of Cade, not like cream. Okay, obviously they are cream of the crop, but I think the way Cade's playing, he is cream of the crop compared to them.
And I also want to remind the people, Cade's stats up next to Tyrese, Damian, even Jalen Brunson, his stats are better. 23.5 points per game. And I'm looking at NBA.com, 7.5 rebounds. So basically 8 and 9.7 assists per game. So 10. He's averaging a double-double, nearly a triple-double. He's got to be an all-star. If he isn't, he was snubbed, and there's no other excuse for the NBA. He has to be in it. When you look at the stats next to other Eastern Conference point guards, he's just got to be put in it. The only thing that's against him is the Pistons are having an average season. They're not like going nuts, top of the Eastern Conference. If he was, he would be at an all MVP type season if the Pistons were top 3 in the Eastern Conference. We're talking KP. That may be a hot take. I don't know, but I'm just saying the stats, MVP players have had that type of stat line, maybe not even as good. So just put it out there. That will do it for today's episode number 6 of season 3. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you all in the next episode. Peace.